salam sejahtera, tuan-tuan, puan-puan, kawan. Thanks so much for joining us. Sorry about the technical difficulties. It's a bit of a tester session for us. The real deal is going to be on May 3rd, election night. Today we have Walid Abdullah, NTU Prof, Teh Tarik with Walid fame. We have Anngee Neo, illustrator with us as well. On May the 3rd, we will have one more guest. We've decided to have our token Chinese boy join us as well. I won't give you his name yet, but he will be with us on May the 3rd. So yeah, this is a bit of a tester. Thanks for having us. But we are going to get into nomination day stuff. But the whole point of this is, forget CNA, that sort of cold clinical environment that you have there, but let's have an environment where we can sort of democratize political dialogue, a bit more relaxed. So yeah, let's get straight into it. Walid, if we can talk about the nomination day, and what I wanted to ask you, right, in particular, we've had these PAP politicians like sort of flying around from one end of the country to the other, parachuting in.
Yeah.
Probably to head off an opposition challenge. I wanted to ask, does this dynamic happen in other democracies where you actually have politicians flying all over the place in response to a political threat?
Right. So thanks Sudhir and thanks Anngee. I'm delighted to be here. I think the answer varies because in some areas that doesn't happen, right? Because in America, for instance, if you are in Texas, you're not going to contest in California. There's that sort of dynamic doesn't exist. Similarly, even in the UK, you see less of this. However, in Malaysia, this does happen. So you see that there's even instances of when Anwar wanted to come in, somebody from his party would resign and then force a by-election so that Anwar can contest it. So these things do happen. But what I would say is for the PAP, they have lost the right to say that, where were you for the past 5 years? Which is something I just heard people say about Chee Soon Juan, right? Just a few days ago. You cannot say that if you were from Choa Chu Kang and then suddenly you turn up in Punggol, right? Which is fine. I think it's a fine tactical move. I'm just saying that you have lost the right to use that, like Indrani from Tanjong Pagar, then ending up in Pasir Ris. So if they want to use that, then they have to accept that their deputy prime minister also hasn't walked the ground in the past 5 years, which is why just now his nomination day speech was a bit strange. Like he said, "You have given us." I said, "No, they haven't given you, but given your party." Yes, granted. Yeah. So I just think we should just be politically mature and just accept that this is part of the political chess.
Yeah. And Anngee, you're in Tampines.
I'm in Tampines.
Did anybody
Same with
fly
Walid.
there?
Yes, both of
Yes.
us.
So that's why Indrani.
Well, I think we're the most exciting GRC for this season, right? Like because we are the first 4 corner fight ever. So it's kind of shaping up to be quite interesting. Although I wish like the lineup was a little bit different. Right, we've got one of my most hated enemies, Goming Singh from the PPP contesting, and I've started this online club called the Goming Singh Haters Club. It's free to join; everyone can join.
He was on my Teh Tarik. I'm not gonna join.
Where?
You're very PC.
Where is this club?
Oh, it's just on my IG. We just all read on him.
IG.
Yes,
Okay.
You just Google Goming Singh's Haters Club. I'm sure you can find it somewhere.
Yeah, I thought. Sorry. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, but I think like it's very interesting how there's this idea that smaller parties need to give way to bigger parties, and I think this is quite a topic that was talked about prior to nomination day, where some parties have said that like if you're not WP or SDP, you should stand down, and some parties have actually done that like today.
Yeah, I'm not actually concerned about, I don't know about the two of you, I'm not concerned about a 3-4 cornered fight. I'm pretty confident. In fact, I'm extremely confident that in a 4 cornered fight or 3 cornered fight, if it's up against the big 3, WP, PSP, SDP, the smaller party will not get back their deposits. I'm supremely confident. Just because people, there's this theory actually in political science, the psychological effect in first past the post systems, people will vote for the opposition party that is most likely to win rather than the one that is closest to their own ideologies.
So maybe we should like thank the NSP and PPP for like contesting in Tampines.
Yeah,
Because maybe
because-
they'll like shoot up like WPs.
No, they'll get they'll get 1% or 0 point something%. I don't think they will.
I hope.
Yeah, and
government-
you're right. Also, when it's contrasted against the WP, probably the WP looks pretty good.
Wait,
But
but can I just pause on that?
Please.
Because suddenly when it comes to the presidential election, there's a
okay, so that's,
belief
that's
that it splits the
that's
vote,
an
right? When you
interesting
have
one, right?
multiple
Because-
candidates.
so for the presidential election, the first time round, for Tan Cheng Bock, because I think that was the first time it happened, so people were unsure. I guarantee you, Sud, if that happened in 2025, Tan JC will not get back his deposit because there is a clearer, better candidate. At that point in time, Tan Cheng Bock is not the Tan Cheng Bock now, right?
Okay.
Because he just left the PAP, still fresh.
I think the other thing is also that the media landscape is very different, and
Correct.
how the candidates were covered is also very different.
Yeah. So today
yeah.
it'll be different. You're
Having
right.
like a direct access to your audience instead of relying
Yeah.
on state media or
Yep.
like radio or TV
Absolutely.
makes a very big difference.
I
Go.
I think certainly in 2020 we saw voters becoming a lot more discriminating, between the opposition parties lah. So on that point, maybe we can talk a bit about what the Workers' Party has done this time
Yeah.
around, and how you all feel about their
I'm
strategy.
very disappointed. I think they were
Right.
far too conservative.
Okay.
I felt that moving Faisal was a big move, but they moved Faisal alone.
Mm.
I thought if they were going to move Faisal, because I actually think a
So
lot
moving
of
Faisal from Aljunied to
to Tampines,
Tampines.
I think is a good move. Because I don't know why that a lot of analysts have not put Tampines as one of the hot GRCs. I actually think Tampines is there for the taking the most.
I heard this like hashtag called Mas Must Go somewhere.
Oh,
and
what does it refer to? As in
Masagos must
live?
go.
Oh yeah. I heard
Well,
that
maybe
too. It's
like
it's
is that?
been-
Do you
it's been
think
going
that
around.
like moving Faisal over is like a response to Mas Must Go?
I
That
think moving
hashtag?
Faisal is for sure to, because don't forget Tampines has 25% Malays,
Yeah.
the highest GRC,
Yeah.
with the highest proportion of Malays in the GRC in Singapore. So for sure there's that. But also Faisal is one of the 3 leaders of WP. He's a big name. So I thought that at the very least, if you're not moving Sylvia, Harpreet and Alia, the 2-star catchers, would have gone to Tampines. Or Faisal could have gone to Punggol or something, right? With the 2 of
Mm.
them. So I felt that Faisal is not given the resources to actually really mount
Yeah.
a serious challenge, when actually I think it is there for the taking.
So Faisal with one other heavyweight, you think would
Yes.
have taken Tampines?
Oh yeah, I
So
think
you think like Faisal on his own is not enough as a heavyweight?
it makes it harder. So I think it has to be Faisal and Sylvia or Faisal and Harpreet.
Right. So you're saying that they should have concentrated on one and use all like
Yes,
the heavy
that's what I'm
ammo
saying.
in one
Or
area.
if Pritam was the one living, Pritam by himself I think would have been enough. But
So can we talk very briefly about Pritam's own conservatism, I guess,
Yeah, yes.
because I know you had a chat with Paul Tambaya a
Yes.
couple of nights ago where you all talked about whether Pritam should move out.
yes.
And I do think that the more expansionist WP fans would be very disappointed. I've also heard this theory that, Pritam's elo, his comfortable position, even the recent trial, which is sort of a guilty verdict until he appeals after the election, all that was in a way meant to hold him into his Aljunied place, make the cost of moving out more expensive for him, right?
Right. So I think actually the trial, and based on the surveys that we have, made him more popular, right? So his popularity rating went up a few percentage points. So I've heard that, but I'm not sure why they had to buy into it, like the WP had to buy into it, and why they behave so conservatively. But if they win Punggol, then we'll be having a different conversation. And I think Punggol is very much in play. Unfortunately, Marine Parade is not in play. I don't think East Coast will be in play as much. I think it's West Coast. I think it's West Coast, Tampines, and Bukit Panjang for sure. Bukit Panjang for sure.
I would like Paul Tambaya to win Bukit Panjang for sure.
Yeah, and Punggol JLC.
And he was very close to last election. It was only like less than 4%.
46%. So
yeah.
And he's still contesting there. So I think he stands the highest chance, I think, now.
Yeah, there's a question and we'll get to that in a second, but let's just talk about Paul. So what's your sense of Paul over the past 5 years in terms of I've seen him do a lot of TikTok videos. He does some really good explainer videos on TikTok, especially after the budget a couple of months ago. Your sense is he's become more and more popular, or
I feel like Paul is not super well known overall in general to the average person, but for people who actually do pay attention to politics, I think he's quite well known and well liked. I followed his TikTok as well, and he does a really, really good job. You know, he doesn't sing and dance on
Yeah,
TikTok.
La Boo Boo.
Yeah, or like, give out la boo boos. But he does really good explainers. But sometimes, like the good things for you are not the most popular, I would say, so
I think he can. I don't think he'll do worse than 2020, right? Because 2020 was his first time in Bukit Panjang, and he's walked the ground for 5 years. His constituency is still intact, so I think he should do better. The question is how much better, and I would say he thinks what is a 51-49, right? 49 chance for him. I think it's the other way around. I think it's 55-45. In his favor.
Okay. So that's a close fight. Another close fight we thought might happen, and that's a question from the floor, was Marine Parade Bradle, that the most weirdly shaped GRC in the history of mankind. Did you all expect? Did you all have any sense that
None at all.
WP?
I don't know.
I mean, and part of me was almost wondering if because Harpreet's been spending so much time walking the ground in Marine Parade.
But I was supremely confident Harpreet wouldn't be in Marine Parade.
Why?
Because when I saw the Marine Parade lineup, which of course was a bait and switch, right? Like Tan See Leng, I thought that was a pretty strong lineup.
Okay.
A pretty strong lineup when with Faisal and Tin Peling, who are two super on the ground MPs that can really get votes.
And they have huge winning margins as well.
Correct, like 57-43. So
and Tin Peling really earned her way in.
Correct, 100%. Sure. I think hers is a rags to riches political story.
Yeah. Like I still remember how like everybody ragged on her,
including
and then she
me.
proved her. Me too. Okay, fine, I admit. But like she really earned her stripes.
Yeah.
And I think like the good people should stay in, but it's still kind of a letdown, I think.
100%. I'm so, even if you're not gonna win, just put you put there for the future, but also to distract them, right? Now people like Faisal and Tin Peling and whoever it is, speaker, will not be there.
Yeah.
Too much.
Yeah.
They'll be in Punggol, they'll be in East Coast, they'll be in all this. Right. So I think it wasn't, but okay, Pritam has won more elections than us combined, right? So
yeah.
We're just armchair critics.
Our criticism,
literally.
yes, we are armchair critics. So I that's how I would caveat it. But yeah, I mean I do feel that he was too conservative.
I mean, just from the perspective of a citizen in a democracy, I was disappointed because I remember 2011, which, if I'm not wrong, was the first election where all seats were contested for a long time.
Yeah.
And now, we're sort of taking one step back almost, because I didn't vote for much of my youth because it was always a walkover. And so, now you've got a lot of residents, Marine Parade, Bradle, especially if the first time voters there, entire generation of Gen Zs who are looking forward to voting.
Like, my group chats were all like angry Marine Parade people, like ranting.
Same.
And I think the thing is like like Singapore, it's not really a political country. We don't really talk about politics or chase after politics as much as some other countries. So for us, it's kind of like a rare chance every 4 to 5 years to exercise your right as a citizen to vote.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's sad lah. It's sad. I mean, whatever happened. But let's talk about the bait and switch. So, you mentioned Tan See Leng going to Choa Chu Kang, right? But correct me if I'm wrong. So I understand this. The way the sequencing of it was that once PAP found out that Harpreet was going to be in Punggol, then they sent Gan Kim Yong there, and then they had to pull Tan See Leng over lah.
I think so.
Is that probably what would?
I think that's what happened. But I'm also thinking, is Gan Kim Yong the strongest one?
You don't think that he has goodwill from like COVID and how he led the task force for COVID?
I don't think he's even that known. I think the goodwill from COVID Lawrence Wong
right.
is the beneficiary
But-
of it, right?
Like my memories from COVID are like just them, the two of them passing like
That's
the
right.
mic to each other.
So I don't know, So I attended. Gan Kim Yong was the NTU Ministerial Forum speaker this year, or last year. So the last one, and uh, when he came, I remember DPM came when he was DPM. The hall was full, about 1,000 people. When Gan Kim Yong came, it was about 100 people.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
but it could just be it was a Friday night. I don't know, right? But I don't think Gan Kim Yong is necessarily like known as a vote puller or anything, right?
I think he lacks charisma, right? He looks very chill and
Yeah.
he doesn't have that fiery
Yeah,
energy
So I don't know how much of a vote puller that is, but one thing we know for sure is that he's Lawrence Wong's
BFF.
BFF and trusted ally, right? So that's a big move from PM Wong, I think.
Yeah, so that's why it's also interesting because Heng Swee Keat is stepping down.
Yeah,
And if they've moved Gan Kim Yong there to, he might potentially be sacrificed in some way. It's not an easy
yeah, it's not
contest
an
at
easy-
all.
Yeah,
So then our leadership will have a quite significant change, right? You
Yep.
know, the two DPMs are out suddenly.
but
And
also the Gan Kim Yong is not meant to be DPM for very long, also, right? So I think that's why they're thinking he's probably thinking of somebody else as a 4G person as DPM as well. Yeah, but I'm still processing a lot of these things. Teo Chee Han is not running, which I thought that the bait and switch could have been that. Or Heng Swee Keat. They were just Teo Chee Han was at one of the nomination centers.
Heng Swee Keat was also at the nomination
So,
center.
like really just playing with
I
people's
was-
minds. Or I don't know. Maybe they were prepared for a few scenarios.
Yeah. Maybe they saw like their opponents in we are fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Mm.
I was kind of expecting Heng Swee Keat to step down already after
Yeah.
like the last
Same,
elections because
same.
it was a very poor
Mm.
showing.
Yeah.
Especially against like Nico Seah, who was not even like very, very old. And
Yeah.
he was touted to be the next prime minister at the
Yeah.
time. So I think like, yeah.
So the results did him, you think, in 2020?
I don't think like people have a lot of confidence after the bait and switch.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
So that's the thing. I don't know whether that will happen to Gan Kim Yong as well, right?
as in,
coming to
voters
Punggol.
are becoming more skeptical about
Yeah.
this
Mm.
last minute
Yeah,
parachuting.
yeah.
Yeah.
But then the Workers' Party is also guilty of that, right? So it sorts of cancels each other out. So what the
As in, even Harpreet might be seen as a parachute.
heartbreak. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll see.
But I
Uh,
guess like like one of the questions that I've had for like the longest time and particularly this election is like, is there still a point to like walking the ground, because the ground, you don't know what the ground is and you don't know where the ground's going to be drawn, right? So like a lot of the opposition have been walking the grounds for like the past 5 years, like, for example, and it's suddenly gone.
Yeah, and,
Right,
and
so-
almost as if you're stronger on the ground, right? For them, then it's likelier that
Yeah.
it may be redrawn in their minds, right? So what's the point?
Yeah, like
But maybe they shouldn't be walking just that specific. They have to 5-kilometer radius or something.
it's so unfair though. Like
it is unfair.
Yeah.
It is unfair, Yeah.
So let's move on to somebody who's had to jump, Mr. Chee Soon Juan. So
No.
how do you assess him, his chances?
Actually, the first time Anngee and I went out, we went to
Orange and Teal.
right?
Yeah, that's right.
So I think it's difficult for him just because he hasn't contested there before. Now, SDP has walked the ground there, but he hasn't personally. So I think it's difficult for him. I think a lot of romantics in Singapore probably would want him to be to be elected, right? Because just for sheer tenacity and whatever he has done. But I think it's gonna be an uphill battle for him. And I think the SDP needs to have a serious discussion about this. If he doesn't win, should this be his last election? I don't think they're willing to have that discussion. We talk about leadership renewal. He's been there for 3 decades as leader, as SecGen, not as cadre and then going up. So I do think that discussion needs to be had. And especially, let's say, the scenario for them is Tambaya gets in and Chisunja doesn't get in. How can the section be an unelected MP, unelected politician, and the second person is the leader? And also, compared to the WP, I think the SDP's recruitment is not as strong, but that also could just be a function of success. Once they start winning, they get better
I
candidates
just
as well.
saw like an interview with Hazel Pua, and she was talking about like having difficulty pulling in younger candidates because people they're not in parliament yet, even though they're NCMPs. So like it's harder for them to pull younger candidates, which I was kind of shocked by because looking at WP's success, but I guess like a lot of the stigma still remains lah.
Yeah,
Especially
and
if you go in with like a not very strong party and then not as established party.
yeah, so it's just success breeds success, right? Although they did get Arifin, although he's in a suicide squad, so I think he's thinking about the
Against Lawrence
future.
Wong lah.
Yeah. He's thinking about the future and not about this election, I think.
So let's talk about the PSP's supposedly strongest team lah. Then with Tan Cheng Bock returning, Hazel, Leong Man Wai. How do you all feel about that contest over there? Is that going to be one of our closest fights again?
I'm quite excited.
I think so. I think it's
Yeah.
going to be one of our closest fights, if not the closest fight.
Last time they got like 48.32%. I mean, they've redrawn the boundaries, but like
Yeah. So those 41,000 from Jurong also, we are not sure how much of it is a pro PAP vote and how much of it is a pro Taman vote. Right? So I
yes.
wouldn't be too
They
cocky
lost.
about that. That 41,000. And also, PSP is now stronger, I think.
Yes.
PSP is no longer the Tan Cheng Bock party. In fact, one can make a case that it's the Leong Man Wai party, right? It's the face of the party.
I think
right?
the fact that he gets whacked so much in parliament gives him a lot of airtime.
Correct.
And like, he goes viral very quickly,
Yeah.
over social media memes. So people see him a lot more.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
people see him as the underdog, right? I mean, if I were to ask you, right, do you remember the Must Be a Lousy School?
Yes.
Do you remember what they were debating?
No.
Exactly, right?
Nobody cares.
Exactly, right? We
Yeah.
don't
But we
remember what
remember
the
the
debate
slide.
was.
Yeah.
And I thought that the PAP actually won that debate, as in
Yeah,
on
yeah.
the policy. But the moment they said that,
But
right,
the actual victor on social media is
was
Leong Man
Leong
Wai.
Man Wai,
Yeah.
right? And also the Andy Lau thing. Remember Tan Sileng?
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
yes. Yeah.
Speaking
in Cantonese.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that actually backfired. So I don't think you should underestimate the PSP team. Although this is a side, I just wanted to mention it before I forget that this is the first time that Indian Muslims are being fielded as Indian candidates in GRCs. So both the PAP
Oh.
and PSP are doing that. Hamid Raza and the Sani Ismail for PSP. I don't know Sani Ismail whether he speaks Tamil or Hindi or any Indian language. But Hamid Razak does speak Tamil. So that I think that does change things a little bit. But I'm just pointing out that it's the first time. And also Ponggol is not a designated Malay minority GRC. It's a designated Indian or others. So Alia is there, presumably because she's Arab. But it's also a smart-ish move, right? Because you're Arab, but you're Muslim. You're pretty much Malay also,
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like
so
a
you
Venn
can
diagram.
appeal. Yeah,
It's
Venn
really
diagram.
great.
So you can basically reach out to the Malays, which is a more sizable part of the population as well.
Yeah. Wait,
Yeah.
just to clarify on that. So the two Indian Muslim candidates, Hamid Razak and Sani, right, in the West Coast fight.
Yeah.
So how were Indian Muslim politicians before fielded?
So far, Indian Muslims have always been fielded as Malay.
Mm.
Halimah
Fielded as
Yaakob,
Malays, okay.
Halimah
Oh, yeah.
Yaakob. Like even if I were to contest, right? Not that I am.
When are you going to, by the way?
Not that I am. I
We don't know.
probably would be under Malay. I mean, previously I thought I probably would be under Malay, but now it seems that I can be under Indian as well.
So it's not up to you to like.
I think I will propose, right, and then
Right. Okay.
I will get the certificate of eligibility.
I see. Oh wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Wait,
No
so
idea.
just to understand it, so
How does it work?
in our weird top-down CMIO racial classification system, what you're essentially saying is that Indian Muslims have an advantage lah, because they can check one of two boxes
Correct.
depending on the political
Correct.
strategizing.
Because the GRC definition of Malay is not based on your IC, right? So my IC is Indian or Ceylonese, but the GRC definition, there is a committee that determines whether you're Malay or Indian.
Oh, I remember you mentioned this before.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there is a committee that determines, and the committee has determined that both Sunny and Hamid are Indians. But I just thought it's an interesting point to think
it
about.
is.
Yeah.
So when I looked, just going back to West Coast Jurong again, when I looked at the PAP slate, and maybe I don't know some of the people well enough, but I didn't think I almost expected them to drop another heavyweight.
Exactly. So just now when I was
because
thinking
they
Tan
lost
Sileng, is he
Iswaran.
going there or
Yes.
I think
So you
they're
thought maybe Tan Sileng might go there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they're afraid of losing it because they were so close to losing it the last time.
that
So,
could be it
yeah.
also. I was thinking that could be it. But Desmond Lee is also another important. He's
Yes.
almost like
I feel almost sorry for him.
yeah. And he's probably gonna be DPM also, right? Who knows? But so
He comes from royal blood, right? I mean, his dad was a minister as well, isn't it?
yeah. So I don't know whether Desmond will be enough to win. I'm like you. I was thinking they were gonna pull off a move. So I think West Coast will be the most hotly
And also,
contested.
they lost Iswaran in very inauspicious
Exactly.
circumstances.
Exactly. And auspicious. And also just losing his popularity there also, not just the dent to the legitimacy based on the corruption. Why I think Punggol is still in play probably as much as West Coast or just slightly less because of the demographics of Punggol. It's quite similar to Sengkang in 2020, new estate. So the proportion of 21 to 45-year-olds is quite significant. There's a significant minority population as well. So I think that's why, plus the WP team there is strong. So I think that's why Punggol could be in play as well.
And how about Pasir Ris Changi going to the other side? That's is that pretty?
I mean, I think like Pasir Ris Changi is more like protest vote, right?
Yeah.
Like I
I
mean,
think it's lost.
I don't know if anybody would take either of the parties seriously, but if they were to vote for the opposition, it's I think a barometer of how much people are,
They
against the
dislike the
PAP,
PAP.
not really like they are for the opposition party. I think that's my take on it, lah.
Yeah.
We've got a two-way contest, if I'm not wrong. I mean, I'm voting in Pasir Ris
I think
Changi.
it's a
lah.
Oh, that's
three-way,
why,
right?
yeah,
It's
yeah,
a
yeah.
three-way, correct?
Right.
Oh, it's a
Or
three-way,
Is it
Okay,
three-way or
okay.
two-way? Two-way. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Two-way.
Singapore
Okay.
Democratic Alliance.
Yes.
Yeah.
SDA, right? Yeah.
Oh, that's the one that
Desmond?
the independent guy joined, right?
Yes.
What's
Chia
his
Yun
name?
Kai.
Chai Yun Kai.
I
And they
believe
have the
he's
most
from
beautiful
MVP.
political iconography. I don't know if you've seen their posters.
No.
Oh, yes.
Oh, is it
with
very
the
nice?
It went-
Kau Liao and
Oh,
yeah.
I think it went viral like in the last election.
Yeah,
some of
yeah.
their election posters.
Because after I voted, I went around collecting all the
Oh my
posters.
god,
really?
you have them? Okay. All right.
I have some.
Yeah, so I think Pasir Ris is definitely on play. I would say the ones that are most in play, West Coast, Punggol, East Coast, Tampines, and Bukit Panjang. So these five. And the outside chances, Chisun John's one, Sembawang West, Tampines, Changkat. And who knows with Ng Chee Meng,
Anngee Neo.
Yes.
Jalan Kayu. I don't know whether
I was a bit
Uh.
disappointed with the candidate that was filled against Ng Chee Meng, but
Andre. Hey,
Yeah.
I've interviewed him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know.
Walid, you interviewed him, right?
yeah.
I
But
did.
I
What
thought like if you put like a really heavyweight kind of against him,
I
it would be
agree.
quite interesting to
I
see
agree.
whether like people. I think it's more like a sense of how people feel about
Ng
Ng
Chee
Chee
Meng.
Meng's return.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah. So yes, I do agree with you. I think probably Ng Chee Meng is gonna age it. But I do think so. My WhatsApp groups are always buzzing with how much people dislike Ng Chee Meng. But I don't know what's the reality. Again, we are all in our own bubbles. But my WhatsApp groups are always buzzing.
Yeah. So no, but you interviewed the WP
Yes,
candidate, right?
Andre.
Andre,
Like
well.
what's your sense of him?
My sense is he's quite impressive.
Mm.
I was very impressed. Clearly very intelligent. But
Young
he
guy.
let me on a bit thinking that he was gonna contest in Tampines.
Oh,
So I have a bone to pick with him.
he was making the rounds in Tampines.
It's
though.
true. He was probably
yeah.
sent there. Like
He
also
came to my
didn't
house
expect-
visit for a house
really?
visit.
Did he?
Yeah. I was like, oh, okay, this dude.
Okay.
But
So
I watched your interview and I thought he was very careful with his words.
Yeah.
Very good as a politician.
Yeah.
Very solid, steady guy.
I think he was impressive as well. Yeah. But he's very young, and it's okay to lose one election and
Yeah.
then contest again.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Got time.
So, and the other reason I find Jalan Kayu interesting is because that's an example of a constituency where the opposition parties actually made some concessions for each other, right? Because I feel Red Dot United was initially going to contest there,
Right.
and then Ravi pulled out his
Yeah.
I think her name is Mala.
Yeah. So
The
I
person
don't
was
know
going to
whether
contest there, and presumably to make way for the WP's candidate to avoid a multi-cornered
Yeah.
fight. I mean, it's just a
Yeah. I don't know whether it's a concession or it's just an assessment of reality, right? Because I don't think WP would be too bothered. And in fact, Pritam himself said, right, that they don't attend the discussions on multi-cornered fights.
So RDU,
WP does.
So
So
RDU,
RDU made that decision because they have a good assessment of reality. Unfortunately, the two opposition parties in our ward don't have a good assessment of reality.
Well, I mean, Gomeng Singh is really like far off Delulu in outer space. So, don't know what that says about the people who join his party lah. So,
what if I could just talk about Gomeng Singh slightly, because some
Okay,
things he
bye-bye.
said over some things he has said as well over the past couple of months, especially his comments about the queer community and linking the queer community to our drastic population fertility crisis and,
yeah,
and all
he's
that
like
kind of
on
thing.
and
But
on about like the evil LGBTQ agenda.
Which is new to his politics.
Actually, not really. Like when, so I followed him since 2011 because I've been in
Right.
Tampines all my life, and he was in the NSP team that scored the highest ever, right? 40% in Tampines against the
44 or
PAP.
something,
Yeah.
yeah.
So like, I followed him since then, and he's made like a lot of egregious comments and assertions over the years. And when you call him out on it, like he just doubles down and, you know, goes on about the misinformation and fake news lah, basically. And
Even on LGBT, is it?
so like when 377A was repealed, he came out very strongly against the president of the Singapore Buddhist Federation or something like that.
Okay.
And he said that, you are subverting the Buddha's words or something like that lah, basically.
Right.
Yeah. And because the president was like, we welcome all and we love all people and stuff like that. So it's not new to him. It's not just for this election. So he's been at it for a while.
yeah.
Which is why everyone should join the Going Singh's Haters Club.
Yeah. And moving on to somebody who's I guess often seen in a similar light, but for different reasons. I've been critical of Lim Tian before in the past for what I think is either overt or sometimes much more implicit sort of dog whistling around xenophobic issues, right? Sika Indians and all the rest of it. And I think I don't know how big of a deal immigration will be at this election. I haven't heard any opposition party yet talking about it a lot. But Lim Tian obviously has been going on about this for years.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us do feel that immigration can be calibrated in different ways, but that doesn't mean we should be xenophobic about it. So I don't know if you all have any sense for Lim Tian and what he might be doing, and whether there is actually a sort of right-wing base in Singapore that might sympathize with that kind of messaging.
I think not Lim Tian. Lim Tian will lose. But the more, I guess, could be potentially problematic ideologies would be manifested in the PSP actually, right? That kind of not nativist, but I've said this many times before. I don't think Manwai is a racist. He's never said anything that for me constitutes as racism. But if you're a racist, you're probably more likely to support the kind of rhetoric that he espouses with regard to Sika and immigration. I think we also cannot shut down genuine discussions on immigration just by, hey, you're a racist, right? Actually, that's the easiest way to bring more people into the racism fold, by preventing them from talking about it. So I think the xenophobia thing, that ship has sailed. I think I see more and more people getting more xenophobic over the years. Actually, since 2011. I don't know whether you guys agree with me.
I think in a way it's almost inevitable because Singapore is a very small island, and we don't have the space where people can spread out. So every day you are dealing with lots of people, some Singaporeans, some not Singaporeans. And in my estate, I've done this a few times where the server doesn't understand English, and I had to translate for either Malay or like Indian people in my neighborhood. And I think like if you're a citizen of Singapore where, our official language is English, when you can't even order a cup of ice without translation, that could be like an issue for you, right? It would be really, really annoying. I mean, annoying is a very nice word to use about it. But like, I think, you do feel these on the ground, right? As you're living your life. And also you feel the squeeze, you feel the, cost of living going up. Not because of like, foreigners, but also because it's just because supply demand, right?
Yeah.
More people, you need like more houses and spaces to live in. And then like if there's constrained supply, there's gonna be a lot of increases in prices for things.
So there's a market for it, basically, a political market for anti-immigration rhetoric.
I just watched this video of Inderjit Singh. I think he went on Yala Butt podcast and he was talking about the immigration issue, and he said that he was arguing for a more a longer period of time where, instead of bringing in like a few million people over 20 years, you do it over 40 years. So you can build up the infrastructure.
Right.
So I think maybe it's like a cause and effect. Like we don't have the infrastructure, we are feeling the pain, and then we blame it on the foreigners instead of, understanding that this pain we feel is because we don't have sufficient support. Right. So
yeah. So the answer is yes, bro.
Yeah,
There is that.
I don't know. I feel it a lot too, and I actually, this is one of my biggest criticisms of the PAP in the past 20 years, not bringing everybody along on a positive immigration journey, and also I think just having transparency in terms of what your population targets are. Nobody wants to talk about a population target anymore.
like
it's become
sorry. In 2011, the population white paper lost them out unit, right? But we already passed 6 million.
Yes. So the
we're very close to 6.9 million.
The white paper loss was afterwards, but I remember that there was a lot of unhappiness, and you're right. Like they walked back the 6.9 million target,
but then they
slowly,
silently,
we are inching towards that. So
we're already like just a little bit away from 6.9.
So I think there will be, and I've mentioned this many times before. Even my late father, who's Indian, is very much with Manwai on Sika. So I am not, but
he's very much with Manwai
on Sika. Yeah. So I think there is, and also there's the whole South North Indian because of immigration, as you know. So that further complicates things.
I saw like I'm a troll on social media, so I love to look at comments. And then like I saw some comments about like, why is there Tamil but no Hindi? And then I saw people like attacking them, and like it's quite interesting.
Someone said to me before, which did take me aback. I was moderating a forum with Anta and Walter, and afterwards a new citizen came up to me and said, Singapore should be more progressive. We should abolish Tamil as official language and have Hindi. And I said, I would love to see you make that case, at the election. So some of these fears are not unfounded, right? So not unsubstantiated, but how we manifest it is really important. I do fear that we are, as a society, xenophobia has sort of become an acceptable form of prejudice.
Yeah, but in terms of a political platform that might attract, your sense is it's only possibly PSP lah.
Yes.
Not the Lim Tians of the world.
Because there are the other things that matter, and Singaporeans still want to vote for people who win. So, and the PSP is the one that is most likely to do that. And I think immigration is a very potent issue for the opposition and against the government.
I mean, I noticed that actually WP has hardly any mention now anymore of immigration. Whereas if you go back just 10 years ago, I think it was their 2015 manifesto when they had a very clear line about, this sort of zero growth kind of thing.
They opposed the white paper, right? They opposed it as well. Yeah.
And we've got about 15 odd minutes left, and I don't know if you all think about the election that's coming up. We've spoken about the close races. So my sense from what you've said is, if all the close races somehow, if there was a shift to the opposition in this election, we could potentially be seeing another sort of 15 opposition parliamentarians if all those close races somehow pan out, and the opposition holds on to Aljunied, Sengkang.
Looking at the teams today, I don't think that's super likely.
Oh, you don't?
I don't think that's super likely.
Okay.
So maximum, I would say maybe Punggol, West Coast, and then Bukit Panjang. So that's maximum.
So maybe another 10
Yeah,
opposition
around there. Yeah, and that would
MPs
be
in
like
parliament.
for the opposition. That's the best case scenario. I don't see anymore.
I agree. Like, I think looking at the teams, Punggol has the best chance. I mean, I wish Tampines had a better chance, but I don't think it's likely. Even though we have
What
a
was the
lot.
hashtag you said just
Huh?
now?
A mass must go. The hashtag. I didn't start it. Like, somebody started it. Not me. But it's trending, I guess. But yeah, I think like it's Punggol and it's going to be Bukit Panjang.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're going to get really. I'm so excited about the rallies. It's been 10 years since we've been to a rally, right? Aside from immigration, which probably won't be the biggest thing, but what do you think would be the talking points that would probably appeal to voters? What do you think the WP and PSP and all that, is it sort of around cost of living, inequality? That what do you all feel would be the main talking points?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think cost of living for sure. And I think that's the biggest topic on everyone's mind. And I think the 2% increase in GST is going to be like you heard everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I agree completely. So the 2% GST, because the cost of living, most of it you cannot pin on the PAP. But the PAP still has to bear the responsibility just because they are the government in power. So it's unfortunate for them, unfortunate for PM Wong. It's not his fault for the most part, but he has to bear the responsibility because as PM he has to front it. But the 2% GST increase, you can pin it on them, and the opposition will pin it on them. They have pinned it on them, and they will pin it on them. So I think for sure it will be that. Housing is another one. So that will affect a lot of the younger first-time voters. I think they will be. I remember 2011, I was super upset. I wasn't gonna vote for. I voted for not Goh Ming Singh, but
NSP.
I went to his rally to support him, right? Because I was so upset with Mabautan about housing.
Yeah.
So I voted opposition in 2011 as well. But the number one issue for me as a first-time voter then was housing. I can imagine, and housing since then has only gotten worse. It hasn't gotten better. So, so I can imagine that first-time voters will be pretty upset about that. The WP has made Palestine an issue in their manifesto.
Yeah.
Now, this probably will not be as significant as cost of living. And I also don't know how the opposition is going to play this. But if you had asked me in late February, I would have said that Palestine would not have been an election issue because the government, while not going as far as what people want, had done enough to make it a non-electoral issue. But Kelvin Cheng has upended that. I genuinely mean this.
Thank you, Kelvin.
So the Kelvin Cheng incident has prompted perhaps the WP to push in that direction.
Not the WP, but the Kelvin Cheng incident has brought the issue up into the public consciousness.
And that
again.
could have possibly prompted the WP,
possibly,
particularly in the East, right?
Yes, and definitely for me, it has hurt the legitimacy of the Malay leaders. Not necessarily the PAP, but the PAP Malay leaders. And the leader of the PAP Malay leaders is Masagos. So I don't think all of this is coincidental as well. But probably Faisal had had already thought about going to Tampines. And I think these things just push him a little bit over the edge. Yeah, but definitely, I think it has now become an issue. I mean, I was going around Hari Raya. It's very difficult for Malays and Muslims now to not talk about Kelvin Cheng, right? Even young people not from the Muslim community, a lot of them are asking and talking about Kelvin Cheng. So if Faisal wins in Tampines, he has to send a hamper to Kelvin Cheng.
I made like a couple of comics, and one was about Kelvin Cheng, and when people reshare, right, like, and the comments that they write on the Kelvin Cheng post is quite enlightening to me to read.
What were they?
A lot of it was like how unfair it is that he gets away with these sorts of comments again and again, and instead of, like it just gets brushed away as insensitivity instead of actual harm. Oh, oops, sorry. Yeah, it's like, so I think a lot of people were upset about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So people were upset about that, and people were upset about the two office holders liking that post and unliking the post, and ghost liking the post or whatever it is.
He got hacked lah. Somebody hacked his phone and just to like one post.
A friend
right?
did it or whatever it is. Then no explanation was given. No explanation still has been given.
I mean, Meta is supposedly investigating,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
So
We're
we
still
also
waiting
don't
for
know
the update.
what was the
from-
nature of the
Meta has not
complaint.
commented yet.
So there's that, and then Masagos's first tepid statement where he disagreed with Kelvin, and then he appreciated him twice in the post, and then many weeks, 2-3 weeks later, then coming out with a stronger statement against Kelvin when that post was already up for 3 to 4 weeks, right? So all of these things, I think definitely, which is why again I'm just thinking WP strategically should have smelt that Tampines was there for the taking. And they could have sent a stronger team. Yeah.
You
They
really
should
have
have talked. They
you
should
really
have
have
talked to Tampines residents.
you really have that much faith in Tampines people.
Yes,
I've been there like my whole life,
I do think, but don't you think this time round
I think the vibe is different.
the vibe is different?
And also we have a lot more new people, younger people because
Correct.
of the new BTOs.
The new BTOs, the vibe is different,
Yeah.
and also right, the vibe is, it has 2011 vibes also, but there is something even more could have been more dangerous to the PAP, because whenever people used to criticize the PAP, right, they would say, no, Lee Hsien Loong or Lee Kuan Yew, Goh Chok Tong, or even Shanmugam, they are elitist, authoritarian, out of touch. But nobody ever says Shanmugam is incompetent, Nobody ever says Lee Hsien Loong is incompetent, right? But when we talk about the 4G, some of them are like memes, some of them are butt of jokes. And I don't think the nature, well, fairly or unfairly, I think the nature of criticisms have changed.
I think maybe it's also social media.
It could be.
There wasn't like so much
It could
visual
be.
media
It could be.
last time.
So the effect will still be the same, right? That even if people trust the PAP, the trust and love is much softer than before. So, which is why smaller incidents can shift, which is why I think that this time around it would have been different.
Yeah, but going to your incompetence thing, like there were quite a few big mistakes that were walked back.
That is true.
Like since the last election, right?
That is true. There have been more mistakes, and this just adds on to this perception, right? Just the latest one would be the NRIC. Latest before Kelvin, right? The NRIC thing. So there have been major mistakes.
And I think we were talking about this, like also like that it's very unusual in this election that PAP has shown us faces of candidates that did not go on to contest, or like decided not to contest at the last minute, or decided to withdraw from contesting.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting to me because, like, do you show your candidates and then walk them back when you get backlash or something?
Yeah.
Like, for example, the LGBTQ candidate that was supposed to contest in Nisun, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that Goh Meng Seng took credit for.
Yeah.
Goh Meng Seng took Joshua Thomas Raj.
Yeah. So these are all
NMP.
sort of test balloons in a way, right?
I think so.
There was the other Sikh guy, I'm forgetting his name now.
Yes.
Who was also put forward and then later pulled back. I heard because they might have discovered something about him. Joshua Raj Thomas as well. How damaging would probably that have been to the NMP scheme? I mean, is the NMP scheme now?
I think it's gone. The only way to save it is a constitutional amendment to have a cooling off period. If you're an NMP, you can't contest for the next 2 terms or something. Otherwise, it's gone.
I feel like Joshua Raj should have just gone ahead because he was taking all the criticisms already. Might as well just go.
So I thought as well.
I was
now,
surprised.
like, this is a half thing.
Yeah, right? and it speaks to me of the lack of conviction. Like if you really wanted to quit like a few months before Parliament was dissolved.
So of course, I mean, he's a friend. So the positive spin on it, which would be, no, he listened to the people. What else do you want? What else would suffice for you, right?
I mean, like the fact that Harun was the NMP, the ex-NMP, who's like in Shanmugam's GRC is also like quite telling to me, right? Like
Shanmugam
I
doing
mean,
some heavy lifting and bringing
yeah.
4 new.
He has to, but he's done like a lot of like the power lifting, so his back is strong enough to do the lifting.
So I think Harun did. I have no doubt Zef earmarked him for a future ministerial position. So I think he's gonna be POH pretty soon. That's my
Yeah, but the whole thing is
prediction.
pretty icky lah.
Yeah. So I think that's why, because they have done that the NMP scheme has been delegitimized, I think. Not
Okay.
beyond repair. I think you can repair it, but there needs to be changes.
So it'll be very difficult for the PAP to push that old narrative of don't worry, you'll have enough
No, you
non-PAP MPs
You-
in parliament.
You cannot, because now, if nothing happens to the NMP scheme, I will forever look at the next NMP who gives a pro-government speech. Are you auditioning? Are you
Mm.
auditioning for the next election? Right. So I think it's a joke
I feel
Okay.
sad. Yeah.
for the NMPs. Yeah, because I liked it. I actually want. So this is my soft launch. I'm gonna apply for the position.
Ah, really?
Yeah. Why?
Oh, you are?
yeah.
NMP?
Yeah. Why
Oh,
not?
not bad, not
Why
bad.
not? Why not? Yeah.
I mean, I've always felt it's a slightly
Hey, don't
undemocratic
clap. I
thing
may not
lah.
get it. Sorry.
or maybe you'll be like Harpreet, you apply for NMP, you fail, then one day you join somebody else. No, but can we end with Shanmugam? Let's end with Shanmugam. Why not? Our favorite.
Okay,
No, but did y'all see that Louis Ng thing or not? Like how stage managed was that, man?
No, but I was
Huh?
I was sad. I was
you-
sad. Are you not sad?
Sad.
Yes, I'm sad.
I'm sad that
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
leaving.
Yeah,
I'm not
I-
sad
But if
that
Anngee cries now, right, I wouldn't wipe a tear.
you know, I was telling this to somebody who asked me my thoughts on this. I said, you know, if I cried, right, even my dad wouldn't like wipe my tears. My real dad, he would just at most pass me a packet of tissue if he even realizes I'm crying.
Right.
You know?
Right. So
Like, so a bit weird lah.
that was. But I thought,
But it's such a
actually
big
Louis
loss.
wasn't even crying right at that point in time. Like he hadn't cried yet. Right?
It looked really awkward. It's like,
So I don't know, but I'm sad, and I don't know whether it adds to the perceptions that, hey, if you are critical of the PAP even from within, you have to step aside. I don't know. But Shan said he and PM spent hours to
well,
convince Louis to stay, but Louis made that decision.
Louis did say that Chan is like a father to him,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
But it's true that Shan does protect him.
Yeah,
you know,
he is.
yeah.
Louis is like one of the shining examples of an MP lah. Like I
Yeah.
think he's so outstanding. He's really tenacious, and my favorite part of Parliament is looking at his party members being so exasperated with him as they like answer his repeated
Yeah,
questions.
you
I'm
can
gonna
see
miss that.
the POH getting annoyed.
Yeah.
So actually, when he came on to Tarik, I said, do your colleagues get annoyed? He said, yes. I said, is it because you have powerful friends that's why you get away with it? They say, who? I said, Shan is your... And he refused to answer. But I do think that's partly why he gets away with it.
Yeah, but I mean, he really, really put in so much effort. Even like he makes videos for every topic that he wants to tackle to inform his constituents. A bit cringe.
I just
but-
saw your post.
Yeah, but it's a bit cringe, but he really puts in so much effort and time into
He
the
came out of a
causes.
dustbin, you know?
Yeah.
He was in the HDB dustbin. and he-
To talk about food waste and stuff. So like I'm gonna really miss it. I'm gonna miss
Yeah.
his
Yeah.
well. We've
Yeah,
lost
no,
a lot of good people this time around.
Yeah.
Even like
And also not so good people.
and also not so good. We're
No, I
not
think
gonna
the
name
one-term
names.
MPs,
Yeah.
if PAP drops you after one term, I think there must be something, right, in terms of
Mhm.
performance. So I think it's also a show of strength from the PM, I think.
Yeah.
Cleaning house, first-term MPs. Not that easy to drop a few first-term MPs at once. So I think that's a move that I would celebrate.
Yeah.
Mm.
Can I comment on the Harpreet thing?
Yeah.
So I said this in my live with Bertha that I've heard a couple of cadres and I saw a few viral posts saying that, oh, Harpreet is a PAP reject, an MP reject.
Mm.
And my response was,
They wish.
yeah, if you are rejected and if Harpreet is rejected and the new PAP candidate is K. Shanmugam, okay lah, you can say Harpreet is PAP reject. But if the new candidates are the ones that we see now, and you shouldn't be proud that you rejected Harpreet and took them.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be a badge of honor. You should. Then it's on you already, like when he's clearly heads and shoulders above many of them. Maybe not all of them, but above many of them. why are you using that as a point of pride? So yeah, it does smack a little bit of desperation. Also, what an honor it is to Harpreet, man, to get your DPM to come and contest against a newbie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't that a
Mm.
badge of honor for Harpreet?
Yeah. 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 No, I mean, he's it was 20 years ago, lah, you know, that he applied for the PAP. And he came very close. But yeah, it's a very different time, I guess.
Yeah.
And
Indeed.
it's clear that they are clutching, you know, they're trying
Yeah,
whatever
you
they
are right.
can
You are
to
right.
do
Clutching
to
at straws.
sabotage him because they're really worried. But I mean, just in terms of personalities, from what I know of them, I can't wait to see. I mean, if he manages to get in, I can't wait to see Harpreet and Shanmugam, you know,
Ooh.
sort of debating each other. I mean, two
wow.
brilliant minds,
Right,
right?
right.
Two
Congo,
brilliant
please
legal
make it
minds,
happen.
and I think it would be that's like it'll be a lot of fun in our next parliament, lah.
Yeah.
If we have that situation.
No, even the Tampines contest, you know, the Masagos versus Faisal, right? The
I
only
wish it's like the SMC, you know.
correct,
Yeah,
exactly.
I'm
Yeah,
like,
the
what?
only Muslim opposition MP, the first, the second one was Raisa, of course, but first ever Muslim opposition MP, and I think he did very well to withstand whatever he did, and it's just a waste like that. It's not one on one. Yeah,
I think Faisal would have won probably.
I think so. One on one.
Yeah, one on one.
I think if the PAP wins, Masagos, Kopokun, Babyface, and sorry, and the general, yeah, Cheryl, and they have to thank Bayam King. I think they really have to thank Bayam King because he, as you know, he's very beloved.
He's very well liked on the ground.
Very,
and I have to
very
give him like his credit lah, because you know
He
he's
is
done
on the
a lot
ground.
of
He's always there.
work.
Yeah.
Yeah. He has a lot of initiatives in Tampines.
Okay, thanks Anngee, thanks Walid for
Thank you.
joining us, and thank you all for tuning in. Sorry for the few technical screw ups here and there. Bit of a test run, and join us on May the 3rd at 8 p.m. for polling night. We'll send that
Be
out
all
again.
night, is it?
I've booked Walid and Anngee for about 5 hours. I think
Only?
I don't know how long we're going to go for.
Are we not staying till the end for all wards?
And yeah, and just to say thanks to all those MPs, ministers retiring, resigning. I guess today they'll slowly disappear and we won't see them much anymore.
Yeah.
So
Thanks for their service.
nomination day, yeah, thanks for their service lah.
Yeah.
Okay, take care guys. See you all, May 3rd.
Bye bye.